Hey, and welcome to the first in a series of us chatting with professional fast bowlers and getting their insights to bring to you. So today, I'm going to welcome someone I've known since he was 13 or 14, and he came to me at Worcester with a hip stress fracture. And I know you remember
That
the
was a
first.
long time ago.
Yeah, you remember the first words I spoke to you there. But this is Nottinghamshire, and previously Worcester, England Test squad, England Lions, Dillon Pennington. Dillon, welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are
Thanks
we?
for having me. Very good. Yeah.
Good
very
stuff. Good stuff. So let's go back to then, first meeting and you coming up through the academy. When did you know that cricket was the sport for you?
First, I think I played rugby at school, and I kept getting injured, kept coming back home with niggles and stuff, and started to think, well, I've probably got to try and sort out my life here and get ready for cricket, because I thought that might be more of the option. I don't think rugby was for me. So I think about 16, I went home, and Mum and Dad just went, "You got to pack that in,
Right.
and stop it." And I thought that was the point. I was like, right, I'm going to try and make it as a
So
cricketer.
you think the rugby injuries were impacting the cricket?
Well, I don't think it was great for me, because I obviously had to have time off from going to the academy sessions, EPP sessions, and I was delaying my development, really, I think, by playing that. So I thought there was a point, and everyone just said, right, now's the time. You're either going to have to put all your eggs in one basket and go and play cricket.
So that's what you did.
That's what I did.
So when did you know? Obviously, with the academy, it can be really tough. You know, not many make it from the academy to just the first year of pro cricket, but then to make it all the way to where you have so far. When did you think, actually, I think I've got a chance here?
I don't know. I think it was tough actually at the start at Worcester, because Elliot Wilson, he makes it hard, I think, for guys coming from sort of the minor counties. I found it difficult. I had to go on a Sunday, travel a long way, with a lot of guys around me that had big names at that point. And I turned up in my Shropshire kit and had to get on with these sessions. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough here. And there was a lot of good bowlers around me, bowling quick or whatever. But there was a point when I got to, there was a few injuries in the England under-19s. And I stringed a couple of games finally together at the back end of one season.
For the
no
seconds?
injuries for the seconds. Right. And was playing a lot of club cricket at that point. And it managed that I got a chance to go to the under-19s and stuff because of maybe the pace or whatever. But actually that was the point I was like, well, maybe I am good enough. And then from there I had an okay under-19s, got back and got a contract with Worcester. And that's when I was sort of...
You didn't have a contract when you went out there?
No.
okay.
I'd just been told I'd got to go to uni and train with Worcester. So that was a bit of a blow at that point, because then I was like, I'm going to have to work really hard here to try and get that contract. A couple of my mates at that point had got contracts. It all just clicked into place, and it was actually having that blow actually made me, maybe something happened in the under-19s that I did all right, and then all of a sudden contract, and everything's gone from there, really.
So, a couple of things there. Firstly, let's talk about the fact that your mates got contracts. So, obviously, you came through within sort of a year above you and a year below you. There was quite a big cohort of fast bowlers that we brought through at Worcester then.
Definitely.
So how was that internally and being mates, but some getting contracts, some not? How was that for you? Did it spur you on, or did you think they've got the contract that I thought I was going to get? What were you thinking?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because ultimately, I think bowlers tend to stick together when they're in those winter nets and stuff. But that, like you say, when we were on the academy, there was some bowlers there that bowled quick. We had Scrim, Brownie. There was a couple of lads that haven't quite pushed on, and then there was Finchy, Mitch Stanley, me. There was a lot, and there was some, and Tongi, of course. But that competitiveness actually makes everyone keep wanting to get better and keep getting better. And one of my close mates, Finchy, actually got a contract the summer before me, and that was a really good thing for me, I think, because he had done really well in second team cricket. It showed that he will get, you can get a contract if you do well and you perform, and which he did. But actually for me it was like, right, now I've got to try and push up the gears and push for that contract. I think it's good. I think it was hard with all those bowlers around, turning up in my Shropshire kit, watching blokes like Tungy and Scrim and Brownie. I think Brownie was doing it for a bit, but then got on the academy, and they were all flying in bowling rockets. And it's hard, like, oh my god, I'm well out of my depth here.
Yeah. But like you say, those guys, though, there's a common theme with all those guys, for me, is the only one really that... No, actually, no, he struggled a little bit. I was going to say Tungy probably had a little bit easier pathway, but Tungy got released off the academy when he was 13.
Did he?
Or 14, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because of fitness reasons.
Okay.
So he had to come back from that, and also he grew about a foot in a year,
Yeah,
which helped him.
huge.
Scrimmy had all his back problems and had to travel from Derby. Brownie's had to travel in from Lincolnshire. So
Finchley from
yeah.
Finchley.
So for me, when there's a little bit of adversity and you actually have to go above and beyond to make it, I think that breeds something within the player. Because how many bowlers who've been on the academy, who were at Malvern School, have come through to the first team? And just for context, Malvern School is where at Worcester we trained. So whereas Deal would have to travel for an hour, Brownie would travel from 2 hours. If you're at Malvern School, it's there on your doorstep. But those guys never kicked on.
I actually, when I don't do a lot of coaching, but if I coach like young guys and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that journey to that place. I actually always think that's such a good point, because we all did it, didn't we? And there wasn't one bowler really at that point, apart from the guys that just were on the academy because they went to Malvern or whatever. But we all travelled a long way, and it was hard work.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that is why everyone got to where they are now, because all those guys that travelled, they're all playing now. And it was hard.
Yeah.
I remember Brownie, he was travelling 2.5 hours.
Yeah. And he was always the first one there.
But the thing was, it was it wasn't just on a Sunday afternoon. It was, I remember so many times I was like, Dad, I'm not going to Malvern tonight. And he was like, he said, well, there's no question, I'm picking you up from school. And now I look back, now I'm a little bit older, and I think, wow, what an effort was from him as well, because he used to pick me up, finish work, pick me up from school, and on we went. And you've got to hope as a parent now that it pays off.
You got it. But it did, like I say, it sort of bred that work ethic, which I think that group had. I mean, just as a side note, I remember I'd had enough at Worcester at one point, and I went for a job at Gloucester, and I got offered the job, and I turned it down just because of you guys coming through. Was actually, even though I had other issues at the club, I was like, I'm excited to work with this group of bowlers.
It was exciting, wasn't it? At that point, I think it was a proper crop of...
Yeah, well, you've got Scrim, 6'6", 6'7", who's played for England. You've played for England. Tungy's obviously playing now for England. Brownie's played for England. It's only Finchley that didn't really go on to get that. Mitch Stanley played for England Lions.
Yeah.
So Finchley's the only one. That's a special group.
Yeah.
If it was a different club, it would be almost like the class of '92 type stuff. But with the Worcester being a bit smaller and everyone going their separate ways, it's almost a shame. But let's go back then to that World Cup, because suddenly you were bowling on TV, there was exposure, you were bowling well, so there was talk about you. So did you know that was happening? Obviously, because you were in New Zealand and obviously out of the way a little bit, but did you get a flavour for what was going on back here and how people were talking about you?
Well, I suppose it all was... Everything went quite fast because, like I said, and like you said at the start about my hip injuries or whatever, and I had niggles all the way through. And then all of a sudden I had that patch of being able to play second team cricket. I played club cricket, and I just bowled and bowled and bowled, and I felt really good. And then everything just went in. It was so fast, couldn't really think about it in terms of, wow, I'm in the England under-19s here. And suddenly didn't feel like massively out of my depth. In the World Cup, when I got picked to go on there, it was just a relief, and I was like, wow, this is an opportunity here to try, and because, like I said, I hadn't been given a contract to that point, it was a chance to go and show my skills on a bigger stage, like you said, in front of TV, on the TV, and I wanted to make life a little bit difficult for Worcester, and who hopefully...
Because you and Finchley both went?
Yes. And I was desperate for a contract. I was absolutely gutted that I didn't get one the previous summer. So then when I got back, I didn't really know what was going on, but I think there was a lot of chat about, Worcester going to sign you or whatever. And I remember getting back, and first training session back, I think it was, I got pulled over and said, "We're going to offer you a contract." It was over me.
So I mean that was amazing. And what about the tournament itself? What were the big takeaways from there apart from Popey
Yeah, yeah. It
running through you guys in the final?
wasn't my. It was.
We've not spoke about that since, have we?
No. It was. I actually played against him the other day. I had nightmares looking at him. But no, it's an amazing experience for sort of 19-year-old. You're around some fairly big players. Actually, ex-players that have played international cricket tend to coach. So we had like Jonathan Trott, Ian Bell and stuff was around it, and it was such a surreal experience. And then you're coming across all these different countries and on TV, and ultimately I had the best run of it because we spent a month in Queenstown playing one of the amazing grounds in the world. And it's just a good experience, and I absolutely loved it, and it was massive for my development. But it's one of those things when you get back and you go into your, for me at that point, Worcester, you realise it's not everything, and you've got to then go again, and then you've got to try and get in your first team. And you soon realise that it's just a stepping stone almost. It's not a... I think a lot of guys go and play under-19s cricket and they're like, well, I've made it now.
Yeah.
If I've played under-19s, I'm here. But actually, it's completely different, and you realise that real quick.
So that was, I always felt one of my jobs at Worcester, not just the training and rehab and everything, it was to make sure that young players knew that.
You did do that quite well.
Yeah. to say, because I obviously I'm a failed fast bowler, so I wanted to make sure that when I caught up with someone in 10 years' time, no, I wish I'd done that, when I was at Worcester or whatever. So I wanted to make sure that, right, you need to knuckle down now. It's like there's always stages. There's academy, and can you get to the next stage of a contract? Then that starts again. So contract, can you make this 2-3 year? Can you start playing? Once you're playing, can you keep in? So each of those levels, you've got to go up. And what I see so much in obviously 25 years now is people go up, I made it. Like, no, you've made it. You're not anywhere near, so I need you to go up again. And I will keep pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure you
That's
do
the
that.
thing. And actually, I reckon the Worcester dressing room is one of the best for that. At that point, Leachy was brilliant. I remember getting back, and I think he sent me a text saying, absolutely amazing, like, World Cup, it's brilliant. Now you get back with us and you work hard to try and get in a team. And I remember that, him texting. But actually, the Worcester dressing room was so good for that because they grounded you straight away.
Yeah.
You, exactly how you said there, you did do it. And people did, because it was like, no, you're not big cheese here. You've just been on an under-19 World Cup. You've got to try and nestle yourself in here and try and get in our team. And that was good. And funny enough, all the guys, I reckon, at Worcester that played under-19 cricket, apart from Brownie, who didn't do it, everyone's still going, really, in terms of bowlers, aren't they? Me, Tungy, Scrim, Finchy.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Still going, and it's like, you've got to try and put that to one side, remember the experience, but now you've got to try and step it up again.
So then it was stepping it up and getting into the first team. So can you remember your debut?
Yeah, there was again, riddled with this, but there was a few more injuries. And Kev called me and said, you're going to come to Nottingham for a Champo, and I think you're probably going to play. So yeah, made my debut at Trent Bridge, pink ball game, day night. Broad was playing, and that was a huge experience again, yeah.
What year was that, 2017 or
18?
18?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just trying to think whether I played a 50-over game before. Do you know that semi-final against Kent?
When we lost.
Yeah.
That would have been similar to that was 2018, because that was the year, obviously.
I reckon the Champo came first, and then I played a one-day game.
Yeah. Oh my God, I thought you were a lot earlier than that. 2018. So that was obviously the year
18,
we won the
Blast,
T20.
yeah.
So what was that like, suddenly to come from nowhere to a contract and being around Blast on finals day? For me, hands down, my best day in cricket ever.
Oh, the best.
I mean, what was it like? You were in it, you were.
Well, I think I played the first couple.
Yeah.
And then I had an ankle impingement, I think. And then someone came in and I just carried the drinks for this thing. But it was
we had Woody,
incredible. Yeah.
Luke Wood on
Luke
loan.
Wood came, didn't he?
Parney
on
was
loan.
our overseas.
And we had the best side, and it was unbelievable. Even carrying the drinks for the whole tournament,
Yeah.
really. It was watching this side just go about their business. It was just so clinical every time they turned up. And then finals day was exactly the same. But that was the best day, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Celebrating with like family after and.
But for me, it was in between the semi and the final. You could relax for a couple of hours. The crowd suddenly was starting to get up and they're getting rowdy, and it was just like the atmosphere. But then winning, looking like we were just a little bit off it. Then Coxie, and it was just like
yes, exactly.
wow.
And that,
for a small team,
yeah.
Which we were.
And then we nearly did it again, didn't we? 19.
Yeah. I still can't watch that game. Essex game.
Yeah.
Still thinking. But so you're in it, and then you're like, okay, so right, I'm playing a few games here. I think you came in for Mags. Steve McGoffin might have been injured, the 38-year-old.
What? Yeah.
For the county championship.
Yeah.
So then were you thinking, right, that's my spot? Were you thinking, what sort of bowler do I want to be? Am I going to be an opening bowler? Am I going to be first change bowler? And also, when you're doing a 12th man, it was interesting what you said there, because some people do 12ers and get a monk on and they don't want to do anything and they're grumpy. But so were you then looking at the T20, particularly and seeing how the bowlers were acting, how their plans were and things like that? Were you just soaking it all up?
I wish I had done, well, I did, because I think I'm that sort of guy, but I wish I'd learnt more quickly at 8 in that year, because I watched Luke Wood bowled really well. Brownie obviously was outstanding. And Parney, I wish I'd taken more notice of actually how they did it, maybe notes of what they were doing to be successful, because I think it's T20 for me is taking time to learn about the game.
Yeah.
Really. I'm actually getting there now, I think, and really understanding my game, which is more important. But actually, I reckon if I had my time again, I mean, I basically watched two years of Worcester getting to the final, and I probably would have tried to learn a little bit more about what was actually going on. So then maybe when I got my chance, I was in and I learned and I knew what the crack basically was.
Yeah. But also those 2 years we had Mo.
Yeah.
Obviously he'd been at Worcester for a while, but suddenly we had Mo for almost the entire tournament, and as captain as well. There's the calmness he brought
was
to
brilliant in
everything.
2018, wasn't he? And in finals day, yeah, he was outstanding.
It was great to have that experience.
Yeah.
But so then you kicked on.
Sorry, yeah.
And started becoming almost a mainstay of the team.
Yeah.
So how was that?
Yeah, it was good. Well, yeah, at Worcester it sort of got that way where you end up, you've obviously got to perform to stay in the team. Worcester were amazing in terms of giving guys opportunities. I had a couple of times where I got dropped. That again are those little bits that make you want to, right, what have I got to do now to make sure I stay in the team? And I reckon by the time I was finishing at Worcester and the year before, I still wasn't a set in, I don't think, but I was getting more that way. I remember Leachy got injured one year and it was more like, right, you've got to try and step up here and...
That was 18?
Yeah. No, did he have a back...
That was his stress.
There was a couple, yes,
he missed all that season.
That's why I played, definitely, yeah. But there was a year I think he missed a couple of games. I was like, and then we didn't have him as our leader, and it was like, right, you've got to step up now and try and take some responsibility. You can't be that young guy. I don't like that.
Yeah.
That phrase anyway, because I'm like, well, what point do you stop being young? What point do you be like, well, I've actually got to start performing. I can't just go off the field and go, which is knots through and through. Is you're there to perform, and which is where I'm at now. But yeah, you just get more responsibility, and you can cope with that responsibility, and you get better at doing that, and yeah.
But you were always hard on yourself.
I still am, yeah, which is really annoying. I'm trying to.
So I remember, obviously, you had a heel bruising from Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And you were out for a while, and then you came back, and I think we were at Derby or something like that. And you bowled 4 overs for not many, and I text you saying, mate, well done, you're back. You said, oh yeah, I bowled crap though. It was like that constant thing of trying to get you to relax and enjoy it.
And then you actually go and perform, don't you?
Yeah, analyse yourself, but without being really hard on yourself.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
You got to...
So how do you handle that now?
I'm better at it. T20 is a really good one because I sort of go on feel, how it felt, and outcome. I just watch it back, and if I go for 40-4, but I watch it back and go, well, it actually felt okay, and my outcome wasn't too bad. Put it to bed, because you can't do anything about it. And the next day, you might bowl rubbish and bowl 4 overs, 3 for 25. And in Champo, I sort of go on feel as if it's my rhythm there and stuff like that, and I try and put it to bed quickly. The more what I've worked out, well, and it's the same with everyone, but the more pressure I put on myself of, oh, are people watching this game, or I need to perform here because I need to stay in the team, or there's a couple of injuries with England and you're not that far away or whatever. But the more you think about that and the more pressure I put on myself, it's like my performance goes. I remember the year I was out of contract, the first couple of games, I was awful. And all I was doing was just thinking, I need to perform here.
Yeah.
Because I'm under the pressure. I haven't signed a contract at Worcester. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to go. But I need people to think I'm okay at bowling.
Yeah.
So, and ultimately I was rubbish. And then you relax, and then actually, yeah.
That's the key. Relaxing. A lot of the stuff we talk about with bowling is about relaxing and being efficient through your action and forcing it.
Yeah.
With you, I can look at you when you're bowling and know where you're at with your front arm.
Yeah.
If that front arm's scraping the floor, I know you're forcing it.
You're in trouble.
Whereas as if you're almost floating through, I'm right. He's in a good place. He's in a good place. So you just touched on that. You're out of contract with Worcester. You ended up going to Nottingham, obviously big club, big coaches, and then from there things kicked on pretty quick. So talk about that. The first year with Notts, getting called up with England, being in the England camp. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, it was all. I sort of made this decision that I was going to go and challenge myself a little bit more, and I wanted to go into. At that time, I thought the Notts dressing room was going to be tough to go into. There were some real good bowlers, a lot of bowlers, and I thought I hadn't been picked on the Lions or whatever before that. And I thought, I've got to go and change something. I've got to try and go and challenge myself. Go into a dressing room where I'm going to have to go and perform. Because if you don't perform, one, the lads are going to be like, who's this guy we've got on? But also, you're not going to get picked and you'll just be chucked in second team. So I knew I had to go and get better. That was the main thing. And I knew that I might take a little blip in my career, but actually to go up again. But ultimately, it didn't happen like that because there was an injury start of the year. I go and play, which I didn't. When I signed the contract, I did not expect that at all. That I'd go and play the first game of the season.
We're not. You didn't expect to go straight in the team.
I didn't sign the contract that I was going to go bang. I'm going straight into the team because I knew I wasn't that type of bowler. I knew that in the winter I was going to have to do some serious work on my action or whatever, and I wanted to do that with Kevin Shine, and I did that. But I went okay in Abu Dhabi, and ultimately, one of the things I had to learn at Notts is you've got to have some self-belief. If you go into a new dressing room, a big club and stuff, and you go in there and you don't have that, then you're in trouble because you'll get eaten alive. Because one, you won't perform and you won't. So I had to learn that quite quick, and that was the best thing about the winter was like, I have to front up for the first time almost. And
you're not that youngster. Worcester,
exactly.
even when you come through, you can be 25. Say Finchy now.
Well, you're never young.
Yeah.
That's what.
You
That's
almost still thought of a youngster. You go to another club when you're 24, and hang on, this guy's a big signing.
You signed as a thing, and that was part of the. There's so many things in my head of why I was moving, but that was one of those things. I was going as not as a big signing, and they just signed Tungy and Jack, but I was going as a signing from outside, and I was going to have to go and perform, and I was going to have to go and get better to get in the team. But it all just happened quite quick, and then I stayed in the team, and I love working under Pete and Shiny. I think they're brilliant, and Pete brings the best out of that competitiveness about fronting up.
Yeah.
And I think that actually got the best out of me, and then all of a sudden, there was obviously a few injuries with England, one being Tungy. And then everything just went into place, and sadly didn't get my opportunity in that, and then went and tore my hamstring in the hundreds. So.
But what was it? Obviously, just being in and around that test environment. You were next man in. I was gutted when I didn't play that last test, but it's like, what was that like for you? What were the big things you picked up from it? In how, what's your pathway to get back there now?
Well, it's everyone's dream, isn't it, to go into an England dressing room. And it all happened quite quick because I hadn't even been in the Lions dressing room. And then all of a sudden I'm sat at breakfast with all the test team morning of a training going to Lords, and I'm like, wow, what is going on here? But again, it was one of those things you've got to get your head around it, and you've got to get your head around it quick because the test is starting in a couple of days, and if you get that opportunity. But it was incredible. It was so good to be around that and just get, I think the biggest thing for me is you get a flavour of it. And that only makes you hungry, doesn't it? It gives you hunger to try and get to that level again. And I suppose the gutting thing is, I think I was going to be close to playing a game, and that's all I wanted, just to show my skills. If I wasn't good enough, then I'd have to go back but I might have had that opportunity and done okay, and then I'd still be in that situation now. But it didn't happen like that. So I suppose the journey now is, I think I had another setback in the summer, at the start of the summer, and I didn't quite get my rhythm. I wasn't bowling that well at the start, but I think I'm getting to that way now. Kookaburra games are massive, I think. If you bowl well with them and try and bowl quick and find ways of getting wickets, I think England will look at that.
So on that though, what was their feedback to you? What are they looking at? Are they looking at your pace? Is that the big thing, or your wickets, or what?
For me,
where are they looking?
For me, I don't think it's necessarily out and out pace, because I've never been an out and out quick bowler. But one thing I have is I think I can hold my pace, and I keep running in, and I would say that's my X factor. I think I will keep going, and if a captain wants me to bowl a long spell, I'll do it. If he wants me to bowl a short spell and try and bowl quicker, I'll do it. So I think they're looking for a core group of bowlers that they can pick from whatever they want. Do they want two out and out fast bowlers? They can go and get that. Do they want someone who's bowling sort of mid-80s but will hold his pace throughout the day? And then I might get a chance at some point. But I think they're just looking for different types of bowlers, so they have variety.
Yeah.
And on a certain day, they can go and pick who they want. So I suppose for me, the feedback is you just got to keep performing, keep taking wickets, make sure my pace is at a point where it's good enough for Test cricket, and I can hold that. And that's
so 85 to 90 regularly.
I think, yeah, definitely mid-80s. You've got to be trying to hold. I think that's definitely what they're looking at. So I suppose that's something obviously you're doing with these guys or whatever, and I'm doing at Notts, trying to push that, make sure that I can do it for long periods of time, and then you get a chance.
Brilliant. Well, mate, fingers crossed within the next year or two, you're back in there,
That's hope.
and you're getting that Test cap.
That's certainly
Good stuff.